Today, I'm going to show you how to build productized AI systems from scratch. The idea behind productized AI systems is that they automate end-to-end workflows and can be built once and resold to multiple clients without any customization. As an example, I'll be building a LinkedIn content system live that can generate LinkedIn posts, images, can adapt to the tone of voice of each company, can use different writing frameworks, and has a built-in content calendar. I'll use N8N to automate the workflows, Airtable to store and organize the data, and Airtable interface to give a nice user interface to the customer. This is the exact setup we use for our AI SEO agency in a box, which we sold to more than 50 businesses by now. And I'll build everything live in this video so you can get an idea of the thought process behind building a system like this. And the template will also be available in my community. So I'll first show you a quick demo. I've just built the entire system from scratch, which you'll see me do in a second. So this is basically the last part of my recording, but I just wanted to put it in front to first show you a quick demo. Now, here we have our LinkedIn agency in a box, and the whole idea behind this system is that you can manage the LinkedIn content generation for multiple businesses inside of this same system. And of course, this is a productized AI system, meaning you can potentially resell this same system to multiple businesses without any customization, right? So, of course, I built this entire system in 1.5 or 2 hours, I think. So it's far from perfect yet. Building really valuable AI productized systems usually take a little bit longer. But I think it will give you a good idea of the infrastructure we use to build these productized systems. And you can build on top of this quite easily. So it's just to give you, that's really the purpose of this video, to teach you how to sort of approach building these productized AI systems. So we basically have 4 different sections here inside of the system. First, we can set up the campaigns for the specific companies, so we can manage the multiple companies. And of course, we want the system to personalize the LinkedIn content based on each company, which we're going to do in this step. Then we can check the analytics for posts we've done, but also for past posts. And we can reference specific posts we want to use inside of the system when generating new ones. For example, to mimic sort of the tone of voice or style when generating the new posts. Then we can request new LinkedIn posts, and the generated ones will be posted here in this section too. And then we also have a built-in content calendar. So let me just show you a quick demo. So here, if I go to the campaign setup, here I can manage the different companies I want to do LinkedIn content for. And you can see we have 3 ones set up here. This is just dummy data, but this is my company here, and we can add new companies here too if we want. And here, basically, the user has to provide some information to the system on this company. And from there, we're going to personalize it for each company. So first, we have the company info, which, of course, the company name, the company URL, and the company LinkedIn URL. Then we have the LinkedIn post references or for analytics, right? So we have the user LinkedIn. In this case, I just use my personal LinkedIn. And then we have 2 reference LinkedIn URLs, which we can use basically if we like some other creators who have a specific tone of voice or style of writing. We can add them in here to sort of use those posts as references when generating new ones. And then we have an action here, which is generating the information. And I'll show you how this works in the backend. So I click here on test workflow, and I go to click the action. You'll see what happens here in the backend. The AI agent here, together with Perplexity, will basically first do some research on this company to generate a business overview, the ICP for this business, and the value proposition for this business. Now, why are we doing this? Because it's important when we're generating these new LinkedIn posts that the LLM has context on what this business does and who their target audience is, right? So that's why we're generating this here. And then, of course, here in this node, we're also scraping all the reference posts, which we can then select in order to sort of mimic that tone of voice and style of those creators. And of course, it will update it back into the Airtable. So if we go back now to the Airtable, now you can see we get a business overview, right? We get a value proposition and the ICP, right? So the AI agency provides advanced artificial intelligence solutions designed to empower businesses across various sectors by automating, personalizing, and optimizing their operations, etc. So long text here, but you can see it's quite in depth. And this, of course, we're going to use when we're generating new posts. And the key thing here is we still have human in the loop, right? So someone can still change this, maybe add some things, iterate on it, etc. We have the value proposition too, and the ICP. So we can do the same here for HubSpot, just so we have it. So we'll do the same for HubSpot. And in the meantime, we'll start going to the next section. You can see now it also scraped these different creators with the LinkedIn post of these creators with the amount of likes. So it's automatically sorted based on the likes, right? And then we can see the post in detail here. And we can select sort of the tone of voice of the type of post that we like. Now I'll just use mine. So let's say we're going to use this one. We can just check mark it here. This is also mine to sort of mimic my tone of voice. So let's select these for now. Now we can go back, see if HubSpot's already updated. Yes, we got the same thing for HubSpot. And now we should also have the reference post for HubSpot. Yes. So we can select some here too. And now we can, these selected ones will be taken into account when we're generating new ones, right? To mimic that down tone of voice. So just put a few examples here. So here I can request a new post. And when I request a new post, I can decide for which company. So in this case, I'll do mine. And then the way I've set up this system is to basically use YouTube links or blog links to use as context. And then it can repurpose from that context into a LinkedIn post. Now, if I had more time to build out this system, I'd probably put some more input types here, maybe just a short prompt for user to tell what kind of post he wants to generate, or maybe different types of inputs like podcast. You could think of some others, but I didn't want to make this an 8-hour tutorial. So I'll just take one of my last videos, right? AI CRM. I'll put it in here, and then I select YouTube, and then I can also decide which type of CTA I want to use. So let's do comment. And then I can also add in custom instructions for the post generation, and also custom instructions for the image generation. I'll leave it empty for now. Now let me show you what's going to happen in the backend. So if I click on test workflow and I create this, you'll see now that it first starts scraping the YouTube transcript, right? Then it takes all the information about the company that we generated earlier, about the ICP, etc., and the referenced LinkedIn post, and passes all of the information together with the YouTube transcript into this LLM chain, who will generate 3 different types of LinkedIn posts with 3 different frameworks, basically a story-based one, an insight-based one, and sort of an engagement type post. Now, ideally, if I would have more time, I'd probably give the user the option of what kind of posting framework you would want to use. But again, I didn't want to make this too long. Here, generated the prompt for the image generation according to each of the posts. And now it's using the OpenAI image generator API to generate 3 different images. Now this is going to take a while, so I'll speed it up quickly. And now it's updating the Airtable. So if I go back, you can see we now got 3 new posts. So let's see. So you can see it pretty much took my tone of voice, definitely, and my style of writing. If you know it, I usually use these exact emojis, right? And also with these, so it definitely copied my tone of voice. How we automated our entire sales process using Airtable, N8N, and Cloud. Manual sales admin is a silent productivity killer. Here's how you can bring fully automated CRM in Airtable, zero-touch lead research and qualification, real-time meeting analysis. So pretty good. So this is an insight-focused post, and we also have this one is a story-based post. A few years ago, I found myself buried under a mountain of sales admin work. If you've ever been responsible for sales, finance, or regulated industry, you know what I mean. Time spent researching lead, endless meeting prep, etc. Something I had to change. That's when we decided to build an end-to-end sales automation system. So pretty good. And the whole point is we have the human in the loop here, right? So we can still adjust things before actually deciding to go ahead with it. Now let's see the image. Pretty good, I'd say. We could probably improve this inside of the system too, to make it more sort of brand aligned, give it some examples, things like this, but it's not bad. And we can check the last one. Shorter one. How many hours does your team? Yeah, pretty good. And then let's say we like a specific post and we want to add it to the content calendar. We can just click here on schedule post. We can select the date we want to post it on. So let's say for Saturday. All right, and now automatically this post will be on our content calendar here. You can see on Saturday, we now have our post here. And of course, I didn't set this up for this specific one, but we can also automatically trigger an automation to actually post this on LinkedIn directly from here. Now, I purposely didn't do it because apparently LinkedIn might punish it a bit if you automatically post on LinkedIn. So I generally prefer to just copy and paste it. But you can definitely set it up. So this is just what I built very quickly. I definitely would add some things if I had more time, but yeah, I'll get into the building from scratch right now. So at this part of the video, I've yet to actually build the entire system. I'm going to build it live from scratch so you get an idea of the thought process behind building a system like this. I did plan it out a bit, so I just want to take you through my initial idea of the system. And planning is part of a process of building a productized AI system. I'm going to try to wing it, do it all in one take, so we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'll run into some errors, but it gives you a good idea, I think, of what it actually requires to build a system like this. Now, before going over the planning, what are the requirements for it to be a productized AI system? First of all, it has to be a resellable AI system, right? So it has to be pre-built and can be used by multiple customers without any customization. That doesn't mean it's a one-size-fits-all. Every company will need their personalization and the system to be adapted to their specific use case, their specific business, in this case, maybe tone of voice, etc. But the difference is this is going to be built into the system and done by the user, which I'm going to show you in a second. Second, in an AI system, we want to automate as much as possible of the end-to-end workflow. The reason is the more we can automate an end-to-end workflow, the more value our AI system is going to have, and the more we can sell it for, right? Now, this is going to be an MVP as a disclaimer, because of course I'm going to build this live from scratch. In reality, building a productized AI system that's really valuable will take you a little bit more time. Then I don't know how long this tutorial is going to be, but probably an hour or two. It's going to take you longer. So this is going to be an MVP, but it will give you a good idea of the infrastructure we use to build systems like these. And lastly, for productized AI system, we want to have a user interface for people to manage the workflow in an easy way, right? And in a nice user interface for people who are non-technical to be able to manage this workflow. So here's my initial idea of the LinkedIn content system. So basically, I think we'll have four different elements. The first one is the strategy, posting strategy setup. And here we really want to bring in that personalization, because of course, every company will need their LinkedIn post to be adapted to their specific tone of voice, to their specific business, and to their specific ICP. So we want the system to generate this for each company so we can personalize that when we're actually writing the LinkedIn post. Then for the input, in this case, I'm going to stick to 2, which is this system can repurpose blog articles into LinkedIn posts and YouTube videos into LinkedIn posts. Now, in reality, when I would build out this entire system, I'd probably add some more, maybe podcast, maybe just with a simple prompt. You could think of more input data we can take to create LinkedIn posts, of course. But again, I don't want to make this an 8-hour tutorial, so I'm gonna keep it straight to the point. And I think again, it will give you a good idea of building this initial infrastructure we use for productized AI systems, and you can easily build on top of this. Again, also the template will be available in my community if you're interested. Then the next part is going to be the post generation and the scheduling. Now, in the post generation, we want to be able the system to be able to do a few things. Of course, it has to be able to write the actual post. It has to be able to generate images. It also should include the tone of voice of the company and probably the business context of the company, so it adapts it to their specific tone of voice. And maybe we can also add in different posting frameworks. So for example, a story-based post, an insight-based post. You can have sort of these different writing frameworks for LinkedIn, and maybe we can add that into the system. And then lastly, we have analytics. Ideally, we want the system to be able to track the performance of these posts. And this is what we try to do with these AI systems, is to try to make them sort of self-improving systems. So the advantage is if we can add this analytics inside of the system, then we can use these analytics in when we're generating new posts again, and use the best post to generate new posts, right? As examples for new posts. And that, you can imagine, can sort of start creating that self-improving system, right? So we're going to try to build this into. Now, the way we're going to build it, which you've probably seen already now in the demo, is we're going to use Airtable as a database. We're going to set up the automations in N8N, and then we're going to have the interfaces set up through Airtable interfaces. And of course, the human is still in charge of managing the workflow through the Airtable interface. Now, this is usually the way I plan this out, is quite simple. It's like, what should the user experience or flow look like? What is a logical sort of sequence to manage this workflow? Now, in this case, I thought of this one. It might change when I'm actually building, but this is my initial idea. So first you have a main dashboard overview where it's basically just the overview of the system, and they can uh, select where they want to go in which step, what they want to do, right? Then we have the company setup or the campaign setup. This is a step we almost always use in these productized AI systems. And this is basically where you can add new companies to the system and make that personalization, right? Where the system can generate a personalization, etc. Then we want to also scrape some reference posts. So we want to feed the system when we're generating new LinkedIn posts with some reference posts that the user can select to sort of mimic that tone of voice or style of writing when generating new ones, right? So we're going to add this in too. Then we're going to have the content generation request where they can request new content generations. And then we have the human review and the human in the loop, of course, and where they can schedule. And then ideally we built in a content calendar too. So this is just sort of the user flow inside of Airtable interfaces. Now, what do we need here for the backend? So here in this part, in a company setup, where we're sort of going to personalize it for the specific company, we probably need one or two automations. The first one I'm thinking is to generate a business overview, right? And the ICP for the company, which we're then going to feed in again into the system when we're generating LinkedIn posts, right? So this can be the first automation. I'll just make it red so we know this is an automation. And also we want to scrape some reference posts, right? And their analytics to, first of all, have that analytics built in, but also to use these reference posts when we're writing new ones to sort of mimic that tone of voice and style. So generate or scrape LinkedIn posts. And this, of course, can come from their own business or can also come maybe from other people on LinkedIn they like the style and tone of voice of. So scrape LinkedIn posts, scrape reference LinkedIn posts. So once we have that, this would then only be an interface where they select the ones they want to use as a reference post. So we don't need an automation there. That will be done directly on Airtable. Then in the content generation, for now, we're going to use two, right? Which is going to be repurposing YouTube URL to LinkedIn post, and the second one, the blog post, blog URL. All right, so these will be the two automations here. And of course, we're going to use this information when we're generating the new post, so it's personalized for each business. And the idea of this system is, of course, you can manage multiple businesses inside of the same system, which I'll show you in a second. So these two will feed into this to make it personalized for each business. Then we have the human review, which can be done directly on Airtable. And the scheduling too. Maybe we can add one more here, or actually in the last one, where they can actually, if they've scheduled it, it can also automatically post on LinkedIn at the time they schedule it for. So this is my initial idea. Again, this might change when I'm actually building, but this is the initial idea. So first, of course, we have to set up the Airtable base. And if you don't have an Airtable account yet, you do need, for building systems like this, you do need a pro account, I think, which is $20 a month. I do highly recommend to get that plan. Why do you need that plan, by the way? To do automations, and I think to set up the Airtable interfaces. I do really recommend to get that plan if you don't have it yet, because if you learn how to build systems like this, it will pay you back multiple times. So we just create one from scratch. We're going to call it a LinkedIn. Let's say we're going to call it LinkedIn Agency in a Box. This is how we call these systems, because of course, you can almost see it as a LinkedIn agency in a pre-built LinkedIn agency, because we can manage multiple businesses inside of the same system, right? That's why also we call our SEO system an AI SEO agency in a box. So we can give it a name. And now, of course, we first have to set up the first tables. Now, the way I approach this is usually just to go step by step. Now for this main dashboard overview, we don't actually need a table. We can set this up directly inside of Airtable interfaces, which I'll show you in a second. And then we have to create probably this one and maybe this one, these two tables for now. So the way I do it, and you don't have to do it like this, is usually I use Claude with the Airtable MCP to help me set up these fields a bit quicker. So first we're going to delete the ones we already have. So we probably don't need them. If you don't know how to connect Airtable with Claude through MCPs, I do have explain it step by step in one of my previous videos, which I'll make sure to link up here. Of course, you can just add them here to the fields, but I'll just show you how I usually approach it. So I just go to Claude and go, hey, please help me add fields to the LinkedIn agency in a box. Base. Let's just give this initial table name. So we're going to call it company setup. Here we're going to manage the different companies. So in the company setup table, I need the following fields. Now, this is the part where we have to start thinking a bit on how the system looks. And of course, we can change this while we're building. But the initial idea, again, is to generate sort of that business context, a business overview, the ICP of that business. And maybe we can add in a value proposition so we can feed that into the system when generating a LinkedIn post. Because of course, we want those LinkedIn posts to be written from the right sort of business context and towards the right ICP. So in order to do that, we probably have to scrape their website or maybe use Perplexity to do some research on this company to generate those three sort of data points. So what we can do is as input fields, that's the way I think about it, is of course we need the company name, which is going to be a text field. All right, then we're going to have maybe a company URL, which we can then use, of course, to scrape or use Perplexity on. Company URL, which is going to be a URL. Then we have, let's say, maybe the company LinkedIn URL to get some more context. That should probably be enough for those three data points. And then, of course, also we want to generate some reference posts, right? So I can maybe go with the user LinkedIn URL. If I think about myself, I'd probably want to add some of my own LinkedIn posts there as reference post. And maybe we can add in some other people's LinkedIn of people we like the style and tone of voice of. So let's say reference LinkedIn URL. Or maybe we can add a second one. 2. And then what we need is, of course, a trigger to start the automation. So what we can do is, what I usually do is just set up a checkbox and that could trigger the automation in N8N. It's again, I'll show you in a second. So generate information, and this is going to be a checkbox. I'm thinking, do I forget anything? That should be good for now. Let's just do it like this. I'll show you quickly how this works. You'll see that it automatically starts adding these fields in the Airtable for us. So you can see first lists the bases to find the right base. You found the company setup. And you can see now it's starting to create the fields here. Of course, you can do this manually too, right? But it helps me save some time. And sometimes I ideate a bit together with Claude what the different fields should be, what the different columns should be for a system like this. So good. I think we got everything. So I think we're all good here. Now the name, this one we can actually change the primary field. So in Airtable, we always need a primary field, and we can go with company name. All right, and then we can delete this one. So let me just put in a quick my information. So Ben AI. Okay, good. So we have some reference LinkedIn posts. Now you can also, this is the nice thing with Claude. If you want to just populate the initial data, right, you can use Claude to make some dummy data, right? So we can say generate a record with some dummy data. you'll see you'll start adding some dummy data. Then we can maybe right away add one more table. So you can see here, all right, we got some dummy, we can delete these two. Then we can add in one more table where we probably want to put the reference post. So we're going to scrape, of course, these LinkedIn profiles to get the posts from. And then we want to have one more table where we can select the posts we want to use inside of our system when we're generating new LinkedIn posts. And the reason also to do this in a separate table is because we don't want to have it really messy all inside of one. And second is also for the Airtable interfaces, which I'll show you in a second. So I'll set this one up just manually so you get an idea. So let's say select reference LinkedIn posts, right? And the information, I'm not completely sure what information we will get from the LinkedIn scraper yet, but we can just put an initial idea and change it after. So probably we want the creator name or creator profile URL because we're gonna use different LinkedIn URLs, right? Mine or Alex Hormozy, etc. So we want to know whose it is. So we go creator profile URL. We probably want also the URL of the actual post URL. We probably want, of course, the actual post content. We might want to have, if they have it, I'm not sure yet, but the likes, right? Because this can really help us build that self-improving system. If we can track and see the best performing posts, we can always use those when generating new ones, and then it can become sort of this self-improving system. So let's say likes is probably a number. Let's see. I don't know how the scraper will work exactly. And then we do maybe comments if they have it, the number of comments. Yeah, that's fine. Comments. Let's see anything else we'd need. Of course, then can delete this one. And we'd also need to select the reference posters because if we have many, we don't want to select everyone. We want to select the best performing ones or the ones we like the tone of voice most of. So let's just go again with a checkbox. Select, and there we go, select the post. Maybe we can, I'm thinking, maybe add in one more because probably we can get some image URL too from the post. Image URL. So I'll show you how we're going to set up this automation in a second. But first, I want to show you how to build this initial user interface here in Airtable for these two tables. So let's just put this on here. Good. So now we got the first two set up, and from here we can also start the first automation. So let me first show you Airtable interfaces. So here at the top, you see automations we're going to use to trigger automations in N8N, and interfaces we're going to use as the main interface, right? So as you can see here, it's quite an easy way in Airtable interfaces to build a nice sort of user experience without too much hassle. You can do it really quick, and it really does make it look a lot better, especially when you're trying to sell this to clients. And it will be a lot easier for non-technical people to manage this workflow instead of going through these sort of tables here. We can just go here in start building, and then we can go build an interface. We can call this the LinkedIn agency in a box. All right, you can change the icon. And then you can see here, you already get some layouts, layout options here. As you can see, we get timeline, calendar, form, dashboard, overview, record review, and you can also build them from scratch. Now, I already like many of these layouts here, so I generally just use the layouts, but you can also do it from scratch. With the layouts, you can really do it really fast. Now, for the first one, that's just going to be the overview, right? So we don't actually have it connected to the tables yet. This is just sort of the home page or the main dashboard. So we can just click here on finish. You can see here we have the overview. Here again, we can call it a LinkedIn agency in a box. And then here you can add all the pages, which we're going to do in a second. Maybe you can see here on the right side, we can basically adjust things, right? So in this case, I don't need that sidebar, and we can add a cover image too. All right, now let me set up the first page. So you can just go here on the plus and add a page. Now for the first one, we want to have sort of that company setup, right? The company personalization. Now the way I because almost all AI systems have that screen, that initial setup screen. And the one I like to use for that one is the record review. All right, and you'll see how that looks in a second. So here we can just select the table. In this case, we're going to select the company setup table. And if I click on next here, we can already select what we want to show in this table. We want to show everything. So of course, what I forgot in that system is the actual output when we generate this, which we do want to put there. So we can set up a name here. Let's say campaign setup. And I can see here we get the companies we can manage the LinkedIn for. And here we have the input field. All right. And if I just click here, as you can see right now, if I preview this, it's not editable, right? Of course, we want the user to be able to put in this information by themselves. So we have to make that editable. It's really easy. We can just go here and click on editable. We want everything to be editable. Right, and the generate information is going to be the action for the user, right? So that one, of course, should be editable too. So as soon as I put the check mark, the automation will start running, which I'll show you in a second. Now, what we miss here, of course, is the actual output information, right? Which is going to be the business overview, the ICP, and maybe the value proposition. So that we still have to add in these fields here. So we're going to have business, let's say, that's going to be a long text, business overview. ICP, and maybe the value proposition. So if we go back to our interfaces, we want to also show those three boxes, because when the system generates those three things, we want to have that human in the loop. So the user can still adjust some things in that business overview, in the value proposition, adjust some things, change some things before actually generating the LinkedIn post. Right, that human in the loop, in our experience, is really important, and that's the nice thing here in Airtable interfaces. We can build that in quite easily. So we can just click here on the plus icon, and then we can generate the field or show the fields that we haven't showed yet, which is the business overview. You can also do it here, by the way. Business overview, value proposition, and ICP. And again, these also have to be editable. You can see we'll be able to manage multiple businesses here. And of course, the user also needs to be able to add new companies to the system. So the way we can do that is by adding in a button to basically create a new record in the Airtable in the backend, right? But we can do that through a form here, which again, the user experience is a bit better. So we can go here with add a button, right? And here we can define what the button does, right? No, this is not it. Here, we have to select add records to a form. We can delete this one, remove, and this will be the form. If we click on that, we can adjust the form here. So we can say add a new company or campaign. And then here we can define what information we need. Now, this is going to be only the input information. So company name, company URL. Maybe we can leave this. We can just do the company name, and the rest they can fill out once the company is set up. So for now, we can take all of this away and just ask for a company name. So as soon as they fill this out, I can show you an example. If I go preview here, I select this and I want to add a new company I want to do LinkedIn post for, I can just create. You'll see it appears here. Then I can fill out the input information, generate the information, and the system will generate these three. Now, before setting up the automation, let's set up one more page here, which is selecting the reference post. Now that's probably going to be a list, because we're going to have lots of LinkedIn posts. And we want the user to be able to select the ones that they want to use as reference post when generating new ones. So we can go here in list, and then we select LinkedIn reference post. And of course, we don't have any data here yet, but we do want to show comments, likes, and selecting the post. And it's going to be important here, which I'll show you in a second, that it's linked to the specific company. You can imagine if we have scraped, let's say, 30 LinkedIn posts from for my company's campaign versus HubSpot, we do want to separate those in this field, right? So we're probably going to have to group it, or actually we'll have to link these two tables, right? So we want to make sure that all the scraped LinkedIn posts are linked to the original company. And the way we can do that in Airtable, and this is really important to understand once you're building these productized AI systems, is to go with link to another record, right? And there you can basically link it to another table. Then you go allow linking to multiple records. We can skip this for now. And what you'll see now, it's automatically added this here too. And now here we can decide, we can select the company, right? So this belongs to. And you'll see now in the interfaces that we can also, let's say, group by, and then we can group by that company. So you'll see it already grouped it by Ben AI and HubSpot. There's one empty one, and we can delete that one. Okay, because this one's not linked yet. So for example, if I go this one, then you'll see we get the LinkedIn post then in that for each specific company. Now I'll show you this one in a second when we set up the first automation. So the first automation, the purpose is to generate this business overview, value proposition, and ICP, and also to scrape some reference posts, right? That users will be able to select here. So how do we set this up? We go here to automations, and we want to trigger this, of course, when that check mark is checked. Now, how do we do this in Airtable? Pretty simple. We can go here to automations. We can click on add trigger, and then when record matches condition. So in this case, we select the table company setup, and the condition, of course, is when generate information is checked, right? And when that happens, we are going to run a script. Now, we use always the same script for these Airtable automations, which I'll make sure to, here we go. Airtable, I'll make sure to add that together with the template. But basically what this script does, it can trigger a webhook in N8N that can trigger our automation. All right, so you can see we have 3 variables, which is a webhook, the record ID, and the action. So we have to define those inputs of those 3. Now in this case, we don't really need an action. I'll use an action too. So let's say record ID, and it's important here to match the exact parameter here, right? Also with the caps. And then we have to, because this is what we're going to send over, the record ID number, because that's going to allow us to get all the information from all the fields from that specific record. So we select the Airtable record ID. We select the webhook, right, which we don't have generated yet in N8N, but we'll need to define that. And then we have also action. Now the action we can leave blank for now. That I'll show you later why you would need an action. So I think we're good for now. The next step is just going to be to set up a new N8N workflow, right? So we start, of course, with a webhook to be able to trigger the automation. Now I'm going to use test webhook just as we're testing, and all the way at the end, I'll switch this to production URL. And then I add this one in webhook, and then I can test it out quickly, test workflow. Right, I go to Airtable and I click on test action. And now this should run. Yes. So now you can see the information we get here is the record ID. And the record ID we can use to get all the information from all the fields from that specific record. So we can just use the Airtable node to get a record. Right, we're gonna choose, of course, our base, LinkedIn, agency, the box, from list, company setup. Right, and then we pass in the record ID. Right, and you'll see now we get all the information from that specific field. Now, the next step is really First, to generate that business overview, the ICP, and the value proposition. Right now, I'm thinking there's really two ways to go about this. We have the company URL and the company LinkedIn URL. So we can either scrape the website and the company LinkedIn, or we can use Perplexity to generate this for us. So I'll do the quicker method for now, which is probably going to be to use Perplexity. So I'll use an AI agent that has Perplexity as a tool to generate these three things. So let's go to find below. Here in general, I'll put in the variables that the agent has access to. So in this case, of course, that's the company name. You drag that in, the company URL, and the company LinkedIn URL. Now, to write these prompts a little quicker, and by the way, I'm going to put require specific output format, which basically allows us to get multiple variables out of this one agent, because of course we want to get 3 different data points, which is the business overview, the value proposition, and the ICP. So I'll show you this in a second. And then we're going to add in the prompt. Now, for prompting a little bit quicker and faster, I usually use my prompting tool, which I've set up in ChatGPT. So it just helps you basically write these prompts a bit more structured and use some more best practices when writing these prompts. But it also helps me write them a lot faster, right? So please help me write a prompt from scratch. Or actually, yeah, let's do that. And then I'll just come up with the prompt for the prompt writer quickly. So I've come up with a quick prompt here. Please help me generate a prompt for an agent. Here's the user prompt variables this agent has access to. This agent should always use the Perplexity tool to do research with the variables it has access to generate a business overview that describes what this company does, a value proposition of the company, and describe the ICP. Avoid marketing talk, be factual. It's important because, of course, it doesn't serve us to have any hypey sort of text in there. I always pass in these variables, so the prompt writer knows what variables it has access to. And then the output format should be a JSON with the following keys according to the 3 output we need. All right, so I think maybe I have to be a bit more specific, but let's see what it does. If you're interested in this prompt writer, I'll also make sure to link it together with the template of this video. So you're a world-class research assistant with expert level skills in market intelligence, objective, generate a clear, objective, and concise business overview based on the company data, think step by step. Now, in general, you do want to sort of look over these prompts quickly. All right, is that up here? Yeah, it looks good on initial note. I'll just test it out. If it goes wrong, I'll change some things. Make it into, put it in one copyable box. So good. I can just copy this, go back to N8N, and add it in the system prompt. Now we don't necessarily need this here, but it's fine. Yeah, this should be good. Let's try it out. And of course, we have to still add a chat, an LLM to this. I like to use the Google Gemini models. Let's go with 2.5 flash. Let's do that one. And then we have to, we're going to add in that output parser, right? To get the 3 different variables back, right? So simple way to do this, you go here to define below. As my agent or my prompt writer already has understanding on what we expect in terms of the keys, we can just ask the prompt writer. So please generate a schema for a structured. So please generate a schema for structured output parser in N8N for this agent. So it already knows what I expect. So you see it already does it. So we can just copy this, paste it in, and we should be good. Now we have to add in the Perplexity tool. Now, fortunately, there's no native integration in N8N with Perplexity. So we have to use an HTTP request to set up the Perplexity. Now I will set it up very quickly. I don't want to bore you too much with the setup, and then I'll walk you through the setup. So I've set up the Perplexity tool. I gave it a quick description. It's always good to give your agent a description on what this tool does. All right. Again, you can read this all in more detail in your own time if you want to copy the template, right? Then I use the Perplexity API, the chat completions. Now I've set up the authentication, right, which you need the Perplexity API for. So if you don't know, you can get your Perplexity API key. You do need to upload some credits, but if you go to your account, you go to settings here in the API keys, you'll find your API key, which you'll need to set up that connection. All right, so I've set up that here in the credential type. All right, and for the headers, it's one header, content type, application JSON, and then we have a body, which is a JSON in this case, so where we define the model. So we have the Sonar Pro, then the messages, right? And here we have the content, and here basically we add in the query. And in this case, I use these curly brackets here with the query to be able for the agent to fill in this placeholder, right? So here we can define what the placeholder is, query, the query is used for the search, etc. Right? And here we instruct, right, what our Perplexity tool should do, or how the agent should use the Perplexity tool. So let's test it out. Select, connect this. Now this is probably going to be done with the dummy data, so this company probably doesn't exist. All right, good. We got it back. All right, so we got the 3 data points. You can see it's with the dummy data, so I can do it quickly with the other one, with mine. So here we can define the record, right? Choose the record. Okay. Now we can turn this on, but we have to actually go back here, right, and select generate information. Right, then it will appear here as choose record, right, and then we can test this one. We go here and test workflow, test action. You can see now it's doing it for my company. All right, got it back. Let's see. Ben AI specializes in providing AI automation implementation, consulting, and education services to businesses. They offer pre-built AI systems like SEO agency in a box, custom AI solution development. So it's pretty good. Ben AI enables business, particularly high-growth companies, to leverage AI for operational efficiency, cost reduction, and accelerated growth. This is good. Ben AI targets high-growth companies and businesses seeking to adopt AI for improving efficiency and driving growth. Include organizations needing automations in such as sales, marketing, SEO, and generate operations. So pretty good. Sure, we can improve it a bit, but good for now. Now, next step is to start scraping some reference posts, right? Now, what I use for scraping is usually a Relevance AI tool. Relevance AI has a built-in LinkedIn scraper. So I've set up a tool already. Here you can see it, N8N LinkedIn post scraper that I use for auto automations too when I need to scrape LinkedIn. And basically this can take multiple LinkedIn URLs, scrape them. As you can see, they have a built-in LinkedIn scraper. I'll make sure to also share this tool with you in the template. And we get the user post and we format the data a bit through a JavaScript code. So the way we can set up this API is here, through API. Here you get all the information. So let me set this one up quickly. Again, we need an HTTP request. So I've added the Relevance AI tool. So here we have the URL. You can find that information, how to set it up here in the API, right? We have the endpoint, the sample curl. You can just copy that, right? The sample curl, and always paste it in right here to set it up a little quicker. Now there's one more thing. What you'll see is it actually expects an array, right? Because it can handle multiple LinkedIn URLs, as you can see. So it can expect multiple, but we have to transform it into an array. So we have to add in one more step here, which is going to be a set fields, where we're going to transform the 3 LinkedIn URLs that we want to scrape, right? The user LinkedIn URL, the reference LinkedIn URL, and the reference LinkedIn URL 2 into an array. So the way we do that is we select here array. All right, then we add the 3 different links. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take away these curly brackets and separate them by a comma. All right, same here. We have a comma. I'm gonna take away the curly brackets, and then we need to add in a square bracket to create the array at the end and the beginning. And now you can see we get an array. All right, so let's test this. Yes. Now we get an array with the 3 LinkedIn profiles. Now, one more thing here, because we can't pass in an array directly. So the way we have to do this is make it into a string. All right, so we can do that through an expression. It's an expression you'll use a lot actually in N8N, right? It's JSON.stringify, and then you put the variable in brackets. All right, now let's see. This should work. Good. Now we got the LinkedIn posts. And we got them all inside of one JSON. So we do have to split this out. Why? Because with Airtable, we're going to upload this to Airtable, of course. It's a lot easier if we just use the create a record node instead of the batch update. That one is a bit more complicated. So we just want to use the create a new record node for all the different LinkedIn posts. So we're going to split this out. We're going to use this one. And now you can see we get 9 items. All right, so now we're going to update this data inside of the Airtable. All right, so we can go Airtable, create a record. So first we're going to update these LinkedIn posts. So we go to from list. And select the reference posts. Select the reference posts. And then we're going to add, now we're going to see if our initial idea of the columns makes sense. So we do actually have the likes. We do also actually have the comments. Image URL is empty, but it does exist. Creator, LinkedIn post URL, the post content. And this one is going to be important, right? This company setup, you remember this is the one that links it back to that original company, to the table. All right, so if we go here, it's this one that links it to that specific company, which is important. Now, how do we link that? Is basically we can link that to the record ID of the company. So I'm going to show you that. So the way we can do that is to reference the original record ID from the company. So we can go to that first Airtable node, right? And we can just take the ID there. And this field is always an array, right? Because you can add multiple. So we have to put this again into the square brackets. And then we should be good. All right, so let's go back to Airtable, see if it worked. Yes, now we got the posts. All right, we can delete these. And you can see now it's automatically linked to my company. Right, and if we go to the interfaces now, you'll see that it added it to mine. See, now we have it grouped by company. So lastly, of course, we have to update also the business overview, the ICP, and the value proposition. So in this case, we can use update, Airtable, update record. Then we select the company setup. Now the columns to match on, we can use the ID. So we go back to the original Airtable one. We select the ID. Now company name we already had, so we can delete this one. If you delete them, it will basically keep it on default. So these are all the input information, so we don't need those. Also this not. So only the output information, which is going to be the business overview. which we get, of course, out of the agent, business overview, the value proposition, ideal customer profile. And here we also have to select the reference LinkedIn post, which we don't have to because that's already set up in the step before. So we can delete this one too. That's the step. And good. Should be updated now. So if we go into company setup, you can see it updated the business overview, ICP, and value proposition for the AI. So good. We got the first part of the automation set up. If I go back to interfaces again, you'll see also in the campaign setup now, you'll see that we got the business overview here, a value proposition, ICP, and this is where what the company or the user can then still change and iterate on here to have that human in the loop. And of course, we're going to use this later when generating the new LinkedIn post. So the next step is to create the next step in the process, which is going to be to request a new LinkedIn post, right? To actually generate it. So it's going to be requested. We have to have a way to request that post and to output it here into the interface. So we can probably do that inside of one. We'll need 2 tables. I'm sorry if this is not completely structured. It is because I'm doing it on the fly. But we can go, probably have 2 tables. So we have a request LinkedIn post table, right? And for this one, of course, we need to have a few fields. The first one is probably going to be the type of repurposing. So can we have the, let's see, single select. No, as the main field, we can't have that. So let me just put it here, edit field, right? So type of repurposing. We use a single select because we have 2 types, right? YouTube for now. If I build this out the system, I'd probably add some more options, but we'll keep it easy for now. YouTube and blog. Right, then we want, what else do we want? Of course, we need the repurposing link as an input field. So that could be a URL. Then maybe we can let them give some custom instructions, which we can feed in. So if they want something specific to be generated in that LinkedIn post or specific, I don't know, call to action or instruction, we want the user to be able to do that. So we can go with custom instruction. Also, maybe we can do the same for the image. So we can do custom instructions for image. This one we can delete. So we have type of repurposing link, custom instructions. Maybe we can let the user decide a CTA, a specific type of CTA. So let's say, for example, visit website, maybe a comment, or what else? Follow for more. Follow. So call to action, anything else? And then of course we have the output, right? And the output, actually, we're going to keep this table only for requesting, all right? And I'm going to show you why in a second. So this one we can actually delete. So we'll change the primary field, doesn't really matter, to the repurposing link. Now we might add some things later, but I think for now we're good. One more thing, we have to, again, link it to the original company. So we set that up here in the company setup. We link this to this request LinkedIn post, create the field. We can skip this. And now you'll see again, right, we have the company. So it links it to that specific company. Right, so I think we're good for now. Now for the output, we want to create a new table, which this is where the generated posts are going to be generated, right? So we can go generated posts. Right, in this case, of course, maybe we can have a post title, just a short description. Post title, maybe we can have, of course, we have the post content. We can have let's keep it simple. The image URL that we're going to generate with OpenAI. So URL, image URL. Maybe we can output the CTA to, we already have that in this one. Not really necessary. Post title, post content, image URL. Keep it simple. Probably we keep it at this for now. And we can always add later. And then we create a new interface. And I think what would be nice is to have a gallery where we can sort of show the generated LinkedIn post with the images right away. So we'll use a gallery. And then we use the generated posts. Now, of course, we don't have any yet, but they'll basically be framed here. And then what we can do is we can let users request a new post with a button at the top, right? So again, we can go add records to a form, add posts. And here you can see, because now it's linked to the generated post table, not the request a LinkedIn post. But what we can do is go here and we can go source for the form, right? We can change that to the request LinkedIn post. We can edit the form and then you'll see it asks for the input data from the table of request LinkedIn posts. So of course what we need, this we don't need. So we need the repurposing link. We need the type of repurposing. We can also change this probably to a radio button. We have the user has to define the CTA, custom instruction, and for which company it is, of course. All right, so they can select the company here and then request a new LinkedIn post. Right, and basically what we're going to do is this automation we're going to set up as soon as a new record is created, the automation will be triggered. So I think we should be good here. So in this case, we go to automations and set up the next step. So we click here on creating a new automation. Right, and in this case is we're going to not use the when record matches conditions, but we're going to go when record is created. Right, then we select the request LinkedIn post. And again, we use that script from before again. Again, we have to define the input variables. So the webhook, which we don't have yet, the record ID, which we define right here, and the action. Right now, in this case, we're going to use the action because there's basically two routes our automation should go, right? Because we have YouTube repurposing and blog repurposing. So with the action, we can route them with a switch node to the different actions, right? Which I'm going to show you in a second. So we have action, and this can be the value of the type of repurposing, right? So it'll fill out that variable. So it should be good. Now, of course, we need a webhook. And now we can start. This is a nice thing, of course, with N8N is we can use multiple webhooks. We use the test one for now. All right, let's just test it. Again, we can test the action, but of course there is I have not added any data yet. So let me just add one right now. We're going to do YouTube repurposing. The CTA, we're going to do comment and no custom instructions. So comment and create. All right, now you'll see in the back end here that it automatically created that post here. All right, by the way, this one we can delete. All right, no custom instructions. Now let's see if the N8N, yes, it was triggered. All right, so of course, again, we get the record details first. So Airtable, same thing. We add the record ID. Now we get the information. And now we have to route it according to the type of repurposing we want to do, right? So we do that through a switch node. And that's why we have that action defined. You can see because that action we get as information in the webhook. And then we can just route it based on the type of action, right? So we can go action is equal to YouTube, right, at routing, or action is equal to blog. You can see in this case, it was routed to the first one, which is correct, it's YouTube. Right, so here we first, of course, have to set up a YouTube transcriber, right? So we have to get the transcription of the YouTube video to feed into the N8N when we're writing the LinkedIn post. So the one I like to use is the one in Rapid API. If you don't know Rapid API, it's a marketplace of scrapers, very similar to Appify. But usually I find that there are some cheaper ones here and sometimes more options. So it could be interesting to check it out. The one I like to use is this one. So it's really easy to set up too, right? You can just copy this curl here, go to N8N, set up an HTTP request. You can import the curl, you paste it in, right? And it's already set up for you. And as you can see here, we get the URL, which we're going to change to our variable. So if we test this step, good, we get it back. Now, the only issue with this scraper, as you can see, is we get every sentence in a separate chunk. And we also get these timestamps, which are really not necessary for us. So what we're going to do is just clean this up by putting in a split out. So first we're going to split out all the chunks. As you can see here, this array. I'm going to test. Right, now you can see we get 932. So now we get it all separately. And basically we want to take out only the texts and put it together into one again. So we can use an aggregate node, right? And now we use only the text fields to aggregate. Right, you can see now we only get the text back. Now this is still an array, so we want to turn this into a string. So we can use set fields because we want to turn this into a string to be able to pass it into an LLM, right? So we pass in the text, right? And we choose string here. And now we get into a string. So we're good. Now we have to set up the blog one. We're just for now going to set up a simple web scraper, which is a HTTP GET request. You can also use other types of scrapers, right, through Rapid API or Appify, etc. But most pages you can actually scrape through a simple HTTP GET request. So all you need to do is just we have to add in that repurposing link. Now, of course, this is a YouTube link, but this would be the blog link, right? And this would scrape it. So that's it. And then we can probably clean it up a bit. This is usually what I do after a GET request. And we have to execute these previous nodes. We can't test it right now. Let's just finish it up with the YouTube one, and then we'll do the blog one later. But we should be good with this. Maybe we can define the same destination key. So here we save it as text. And here we save it as data, so we can change this here too. And then basically we can reference the same variable at the end. So what we do here to put them together again is no operations. So this node basically, we can put the two workflows together again. And now, of course, we need to start generating the LinkedIn post and the image, right? But before doing that, we do need the data, the company data, right? The business overview, the ICP, and developer position, and also the reference post that the user selected, right? So we're gonna first use the Airtable node again to get a record, get the information from the initial base, right? So and then we need the information from the company setup, right? The business overview, the value proposition, and the ICP. Now, the record ID we can find now in this, as you remember, this is the request LinkedIn table, right? But of course, now we can get the information from that first table still by referencing that company setup, because this value is basically the record ID of that original company. So this one allows us to get the specific information from that record in the company setup. So we can just put this one here. Remember, we always do have to put in those square brackets for that specific field, right? Because it's an array. Now you can see we get the specific record ID, and there, of course, we can get that information from the business overview, right? The ICP and the value proposition. And all of this we want to pass into that AI step. And of course, we also have to do the same for the reference post. So we have to find the specific reference post that the user selected. So if I go, in this case, we probably go with search records because we need multiple to retrieve multiple. So Airtable, search records. So go with this one. Now, you can do this through a filter too, because of course we have to filter it by the company, the specific company, and also by the posts that were selected. Now, we haven't actually done that, so we're going to just set that up quickly. So basically, we can just say, okay, let me select these 3 as reference posts, right? In the interface, we can also have that, right? At the moment, we don't show that field. Yes, we do. Right, so the user can basically select, no, we have to add that as an option. So we have to be able to edit this column inline. Okay, we have to change that here. So edit records inline. That basically allows the user to edit this. Now, these, we don't necessarily want them to edit, so you can go on each one separately and disallow it, but this one, of course, we do. So you have to play around a bit with Airtable interfaces, but it's quite straightforward. So these ones we're gonna deactivate, and now we should be able to, yes, select them here. So here the user now can select which ones to use. Maybe we can show this a bit better. The interface, giving it a bit more space. Here, for example, we can go with the row height, and we can change this. And then I can open it to see the whole post. And maybe we can sort it based on likes. So it becomes easy for the user to select the best performing ones. So let's do sort by likes. All right, so let's just select 4 for now. Good. So these we want to retrieve too in the automations, of course. So we can do this by formula, but I don't want to confuse you too much for now. You can use a Airtable formula, but we're just going to retrieve them all. And then we're going to use a filter after. So retrieve all the LinkedIn posts, and then we can just use a filter. Right, and we can go, first of all, of course, the post has to be selected, right? So we can do select the post is equal to true. Now you'll see this is actually a Boolean, right? So we'll also again have to stringify this, all right? The expression to make this into a string, not a Boolean. In the brackets, let's do wrong, JSON stringify. Yeah, so this is, I don't know why this is red, because it does work. But then we have the second condition, of course, is that it's from this specific company. So we can go and basically match this, right, the company setup, to the original company. It's just the node we used here. So this ID should basically match this ID. All right, I hope that makes sense. Is equal to this ID. Good. So we got four items. That's good. And also these are 4 items, so we need to aggregate them into one. So we can go all item data into a single list. And maybe we can do only all specified fields. So only we need post content. We only really need that. All right, that's all we need. So now we get it into one. Now this of course is an array. So again, we have to use the set fields to turn it into a string to be able to pass it into the LNM. All right, so we make it into a string. And good. Now let's connect this one too. So we have to add in a quick example just to make sure this one works. And then we're gonna use we're gonna add the most important part of this system, which is the prompt for actually generating the LinkedIn post, right? So let me just add in a quick example so we can test this one. So I've added in a quick example. Again, I'm gonna just run the automation as a test. So if I go here, test workflow, now I'm gonna select second one, which is a blog post. All right, and now we have to test this one. Good, should work. Yes. So good. This one's connected too. Now we can generate the actual prompt. So in this case, we're probably just going to use a basic LLM chain. Now, the important thing here is to give it lots of variables and context, right? When writing this LinkedIn post. And this is probably where I put the most time when actually building this system, is to make this prompt as good as possible. So of course we want to pass in the information from the business, so business overview, the ICP, and the value proposition of the business. We want to pass in the reference post and make sure that he uses that sort of tone of voice and style as much as possible. And lastly, of course, the actual scraped blog post or YouTube video. So first, let's start with the variables, of course. We need, of course, the content, which is like the YouTube transcription or the scraped blog post. Maybe we can call the content base, which is going to be this, right? This is why there's no operation, do nothing. They're both combined into one data. So whether it's a blog post or a YouTube one, they'll both be saved in this variable. Then we have of course, company information. So company name. We can get this all from that first table, right? So company name. We have the business overview. ICP. Value proposition. And lastly, of course, the reference posts, which I'll find here in this last one. All right, here we have the reference post, and now we're gonna use the specific output format and add the prompt. So I'll just come up with the prompt here. It's gonna take me a little bit, but I'll show you when I have the end result. So I've come up with the following prompt through the prompt writer. Probably far from perfect. I would take a lot more time when I'm actually doing this, but this is the initial one. Again, you can read it all in detail in a second, but you're a highly skilled LinkedIn content strategist, right, etc. The objective is to repurpose the content base, right, give it some context, into 3 distinct styles of LinkedIn posts. Because what I noticed is I actually forgot to add in the posting framework or the writing framework. So I just decided to let the system generate 3 variations with 3 different writing frameworks. Now, if I would rebuild this, I'd probably add in an option for the user to choose a type of writing, right? But for now, just to not make this go on endlessly, I'll just let it generate 3 different types of frameworks. So each designed to resonate with the company's target audience and drive engagement. Think step by step through the following process. Extract the core insight topic or takeaway from the content base, right? Align each post with the company business overview, ideal customer profile and value proposition. Closely analyze the reference post to mimic their successful hook structure, tone of voice, post formatting, and stylistic flow. This, in my experience, works really well if you use this almost mimic the style or tone of voice of the example post. That's sort of the best way, in my experience, of prompting it to sort of get that tone of voice, because it can be quite hard, right, to let an LLM really get that style of tone of voice the same as the examples. Then integrate the CTA. By the way, I forgot that one. I'm going to add that as a natural closing thought, right, because I still have to add that in the variables. Write 3 clear, distinct posts using the following strategy: story-based, insight-focused, and engagement-focused, right? So these are the 3 different types of frameworks. Stay tightly aligned to the content base, etc., right? So this is it for now. I still have to add in the CTA here, which we forgot. And we have to add a output parser, of course, because we're actually gonna generate 3 different posts. So I already let ChatGPT generate this. This is gonna be an array because it's gonna be 3 different posts, right, with the different frameworks, and each of the posts will have a job title, a post title, the post content, of course, the type of content. Is it a story-based, insight-focused, or engagement post? And suggested hashtags. I don't think this actually still works, but yeah, we'll just add it for now. And then we're probably, for writing, I prefer to use the OpenAI models or Claude, but we'll just use the 4.1 for now. GPT 4.1. Good. Now we should be good here. Let's test it out. So there's an error. I think I made a mistake here. Yes. So this should be defined below, not generate from JSON example. So let's change this. Now we should be good. Yes, now we got it. Good. The AI agent reality check story. So this is just a blog post I added, right, about AI agent versus reality. This one. Right. We'll look at these ones in detail in the Airtable. But first, let's generate also the images. All right. So first, as we have 3 different posts that we have generated, we have to split them out and generate an image for each one of the posts. All right. So we're gonna just split out the outputs. All right. Now we get 3 items, and then probably we first want to use an N8N to generate a prompt for the image model. Right. And we're gonna use the OpenAI image model, because it's really good at the moment. You've probably already seen it, but if not, it's really high quality. So I'll just set this prompt up. That's going to generate a prompt for the image generator. So I've set up a simple prompt. Right, I passed in the variables the post title and the LinkedIn post. And here, so I also added in the additional important comments for image generation, which is the custom prompt, which we actually didn't put in, but of course we do want to add it here if we have it. Now I can't actually see the custom prompt because we didn't fill it out, but you'd have to test it once and add the variable here too. And then I put in a simple system prompt, right? Use the data on the user message to create a prompt for an image generation model that will post it with this LinkedIn post. Make sure it adds value and is clean, only output the prompt, and then 2 example prompts. So just very quick, let's test it out. No models connected, so it's just connected to the same one. Good. So we got 3 prompts. So then we're going to use the OpenAI new image generator model, which is really good, right? So if you don't know how to set it up, you first have to go to your platform.openai.com account, and you have to verify your organization. I have it set up in another account, but you basically have to go here to the settings and then general, and then here verify your organization. All right, so you have to do an ID check before you can do this. And then you can find the information on how to set up the API here in the image generator, images and vision. Here you'll find the information on how to set up the HTTP. But again, I'll set it up for you right now. And then again, you can copy and paste it if you want to. So I've set up the image generator model. So we use the images/generation URL. For the authentication, you can just add in here in the parameters, right? Authorization, bearer, and then you add your API key, right? For the JSON, you use GPT image 1, right? And then the prompt, you can add in the variable from that previous step, right? For the prompt. And this should be enough. right? But again, you can only get that API key for the image model if you're verified, right? So we can test. It's gonna take a little bit because generating images, it probably takes 20 or 30 seconds per image. So it's generated. I can see it's 6.2 MBs. So it takes a bit to load. But you can see we get a B64 JSON, which is actually a file we can't do a lot with yet. So we need to add in one more node here, which is going to be convert to file, right? And then we use move base 64 string to file. I'm going to show this, and then we're going to add in this base 64. And then we get the data back here, right? You can see we can actually get a file here. Now this is still a binary file, as you can see. So we actually need to host the image somewhere. Now what I usually use to host these images is imagekit.io, right? You can make a free account, and as you can see, they have an image API, and we can host these images there. So to add it to Airtable and to show it in Airtable, you can use this. You can make a free account. You can have 25 gigs of storage, so you can basically use it for free. And you can find the API key once you sign up too. So I'll set this one up quickly. So I've set up the API call to host these images and basically turn them into a URL, right? So you can see you need your API key, which you can get from your settings inside of ImageKit. And then this you can leave the same if you're going to copy the template, right? So form data, file name, etc. And here, as long as you've your file is also called data, you should be good with these settings here, right? So now we test the step here. It's going to take a little bit too. And now you can see we get a URL here with the image. So if I take this URL now, you'll see there we get the image. AI Agents Reality. All right. Now, in practice, you probably want to generate a few images. I would design this a bit different if I had more time. I would make it more modular, but I'll show you in a second what I would do to improve this system. But let's finish it up. Now we have all the information. And now, of course, we want to update our Airtable, right? And we want to create a new record in that last table with all the information we've generated, right? So we go LinkedIn agency in a box, generated posts, and then of course we have to add in all the fields. So we go to the split out node for the information, the post title, we have the post content, the image URL, where are we? Here. There we go. Now we only had 3 ones defined. Are there any other things? The suggested hashtags we probably want to add to the table, which although hashtags, nobody uses hashtags. Let's keep that out for now. Then what else can we add here? Maybe the content type. Let's add that. So if it's story based or not. So let's add that to the table here. So in the generated post, we can go. I have to refresh this one quickly. Right, now we have the content type there too. So we go to the split out and we add the content type. So let's test this out. Now there's one more important thing that I'm running that I'm forgetting, which is again, we have to link this to the original company. So again, we have to add in that reference field, of course, in this content, right? So we go to the company setup, we add another one, and we link it to the generated post. Right, we create the field. Now in the generated post, again, we can link it. So if we refresh this, now we can link it to the original company. So we use that company setup one here, or we can also just go through the original one and use that one. Again, we have to use the array, square brackets. All right, we test it again. And good. Now we should be good. So we can delete the original ones. And now we can go to interfaces and make this look nice. So here in the generated post, we can now want to also show the actual images. So you have here an option, which is image field. There we can define the image URL. So we get it right away here. Then we can make it a bit bigger. So we can do 2 aspect ratio. Let's do square. This looks pretty good. And of course, we also want the user to be able to adapt this post. All right, so we're gonna use editable. This image URL we can put at the top, and again, we can show this display image. Like you can play around with this, right? You can also hide the label, for example. Yes. So, and then content type, and the company is, yeah, this we probably want to add in too, so it's clear for which company each post is. So we can add that in here too. Company setup, maybe the content type. And then we can make the post title. Yeah, that is the title. Okay, so that's all good. So we don't have to show it here. And then we have the human in the loop to change things. Now, if I would rebuild this, I'd probably make it a bit more modular. So first, generate the LinkedIn post. Um, I'd, I'd probably only have it up until here. Then let the user generate multiple images, right, in a separate workflow when he triggers it himself with an automation. Then probably want a review step. So I'd probably add in a step here where a user can put in a prompt to what he specifically wants to change, and then we can pass in the original post with the adjustment for the system to regenerate it. So I'd make it a bit more modular. And then of course you could also add in that automatic scheduling. Now maybe we can add the last part just so we have a content calendar. So we can go, probably we can do that pretty simply. We can just go here with a checkbox, right? And we can go schedule post. And one more date field with the date scheduled for, right? And then we can go, let's say we schedule this one for tomorrow. Then we can just add one more page here and we can use the calendar view. And then we select the last table. We can leave this as it is. And you'll see now we get it here. And now we can also decide to let users still adapt it here. Right, of course, you could also set up an automation that looks at those dates and schedules it on LinkedIn. Right, but it's been quite a long one already, so I'll keep it at this for now. In reality, of course, I'd spend a lot more time in actually making these LinkedIn posts a lot better. We can look at it right now. It's not perfect yet. So you can see this, the text is a bit too long. You can see this one, it did do some LinkedIn formatting, but this can definitely be improved a lot by the prompt, probably the reference posts. This one's a bit better. You can see this uses a bit more of that LinkedIn tone of voice. Everyone's calling 2025 the year of AI agent, but here's the real question for SMBs and innovators. Will AI agents actually revolutionize how growth companies operate this year? So you can see it targets my ICP, right? And it really talks to business owners because it takes that ICP into account. Or are we seeing the next tech hype cycle useful for some processes, but nowhere near full autonomy? From what we're seeing on the ground, agents can automate recurring workflows, boost efficiency for busy sales and marketing teams, service by powerful assistants, but seamless one-click automation of complex tasks, still a work in progress for most organizations. Right, and you can see it at that as that call to action for this one, which is, comment. This is a story based, right? Hype moves fast in tech. Recently, I spoke with a founder at growth stage agency who jumped into the AI agent bandwagon expecting an overnight revolution. They imagined fully autonomous AI agents scoping out projects, handling sales outreach, even orchestrating whole marketing campaigns, but reality set in. Not bad, not bad, but the formatting could definitely be improved, and I could probably add in some more reference posts. It would probably do a better job. Anyway, we can now set up and finish maybe this last part, which is the overview. So all we can do here is basically set up all the different steps in this process. So we can just add them here. And this then sort of becomes our main dashboard. This we can rename to content calendar. Well, we can change the appearance, make it black, and then we can add a cover image. I don't know, I'll just use one of my websites. Images won't fit probably, but yeah, you get the idea. And then we're good. This, of course, you can spend a lot more time. You can make the system a lot better. But I just wanted to give you an initial idea on how to sort of build this infrastructure for AI systems. I hope you can see how powerful it can be. But of course, this takes a lot more time and iteration and building on top of this initial system to actually make it really valuable and good, and actually to sell it to clients, right? But I hope this gave you a good idea. Just to finish it off here, you can click publish, right? And then you can also share this. And then you can copy the link here. You can open it in a new one, and then the user will only interact with the system here, right? So it doesn't have to go into the Airtable base or things like that. You can manage the entire system straight from here. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching, quite a long one, I know. If you got any value out of it, I highly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.